There is something quietly powerful about the way we carry ourselves in this world. It is not just the words we speak or the way we look, but the atmosphere we create when we walk into a room. That atmosphere, that unseen presence, is what we call personality. When people talk about improving their personality for girls, they often imagine tricks or shortcuts. They imagine lines to say, or ways to act, as if attraction were a puzzle with simple instructions. But the truth is deeper, much more subtle, and more human than that. A personality is not a mask you wear, it is the living expression of your inner world. Girls, like anyone else, are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to truth, to the sense that behind your eyes lives a person who is real, self-aware, and grounded. A person who knows his own flaws but carries them with grace, who knows his strengths but does not boast, who speaks not to impress but to connect. This is the beginning of true personality. To grow into such a person, you must first learn to listen. Not the shallow listening where words wash over you while you wait for your turn to speak, but the deep listening that makes another human being feel seen. When you look at someone and give them the space to express themselves fully, without judgment, something profound happens. You become magnetic, not because you are performing, but because you are offering a rare gift in today's noisy world. Another part of personality lies in how you treat silence. Many people fear silence in conversation, as if it exposes weakness. But when you are comfortable with quiet moments, you show that you are not desperate for approval, you are at peace with yourself. That calmness is deeply attractive, because it whispers of strength, patience, and inner balance. Improving your personality also means tending to the soil of your mind. What do you feed it each day? If your thoughts are filled with bitterness, cynicism, or endless comparison, that energy will radiate through your words and gestures. But if you nourish your mind with curiosity, with gratitude, with a willingness to learn and grow, that too will radiate outward. Personality is not a surface coat of paint. It is the natural glow of the life you live within yourself. There is also the way you carry your body. Not in the sense of rigid poses or forced confidence, but in the quiet dignity of posture. When you walk upright, when your shoulders are relaxed, when your gaze is steady without being harsh, you communicate self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation upon which respect from others is built. A girl will notice not only what you say to her, but also how you treat those who cannot give you anything in return. The waiter at the cafe, the stranger who asks for directions, the friend who is struggling silently. Each of these moments reveals the kind of person you are. And personality, in the end, is nothing more than the sum of all those small truths lived out each day. It is tempting to think of personality as a performance, to believe that if you just adopt the right mannerisms, you will be admired. But performances always crumble. The mask eventually slips. What endures is the person beneath, and whether that person is at peace with himself. Girls are not looking for perfection. They are looking for authenticity, for presence, for kindness that is not for show, and for strength that is not brittle. So improving your personality is not about becoming someone else. It is about uncovering the best version of who you already are. It is about removing the layers of fear, insecurity, and pretense, until what remains is simple, genuine, and alive. And this journey begins with awareness. Awareness of your thoughts, your habits, your posture, your speech, your silence. To notice these things without judgment is the first step toward transformation. For once you see clearly, you can begin to choose. And those choices, repeated each day, form the character that others will feel whenever they are near you. This is only the beginning, a foundation upon which deeper layers can be built. For personality is not a single trait, but a living, breathing story that unfolds over time. When we speak of improving personality for girls, we must remember, it is not about chasing approval, it is about shaping the kind of man who naturally draws respect and affection. And that shaping is not quick, it is the work of patience, like carving a statue from stone. The more carefully you chip away at your rough edges, the more your truest form begins to appear. One of the most profound qualities you can cultivate is self-confidence, Not the loud, exaggerated confidence that shouts for attention, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are. A girl can sense instantly whether your confidence is real or just a mask. Real confidence does not need to brag. It does not need to dominate. It is simply there, steady, like the ground beneath your feet. But how does one develop this kind of confidence? It begins with keeping promises to yourself. Small promises, carried through each day. If you tell yourself you will wake up early and you do, if you say you will exercise and you follow through, if you set a small goal and you complete it, these acts build a private trust within you. Slowly, quietly, you begin to believe your own word. And when you trust yourself, you stand differently, you speak differently, you move through life with an assurance that no one can take away. This quiet strength makes girls feel safe in your presence. Not just physically, but emotionally, because they sense that you are not easily shaken by the chaos of life. That sense of stability is magnetic. Another deep layer of personality is curiosity. When you are genuinely curious about the world, about art, about ideas, about people, you carry with you a sense of aliveness. Girls notice this, because curiosity makes you more than just a routine existence. It makes you interesting without trying. When you can speak about music that moves you, books that shaped you, journeys that taught you, even failures that humbled you, you reveal a soul that is awake. And an awake soul is always attractive. This curiosity is tied closely to humility. For curiosity admits that you do not know everything. It admits that the world is vast and mysterious, and that each person has something to teach you. Humility does not mean lowering yourself, it means being unafraid to be human, unafraid to learn, unafraid to admit mistakes. A girl will notice this not because you declare it, but because she feels it in the way you listen, in the way you value her thoughts, in the way you never treat her voice as less than your own. Kindness, too, runs deep in the fabric of personality. But true kindness is not sweetness painted on the surface. It is not a strategy. It is the way you look at another human being and recognize their dignity. It is the patience you show in conversation, the small gestures you make without expectation, the warmth in your tone when someone feels small or lost. Such kindness is unforgettable, because it is so rare in a world where many are consumed with themselves. There is also discipline. Personality shines brightest when your life is not ruled by impulse. When you can control your anger, when you can choose your words carefully, when you can resist the temptation to belittle others just to feel powerful, this is discipline of character. Girls notice when a man does not let every emotion control him. It tells them that he has depth, that he can be trusted not only when things are good, but also when life becomes heavy. Your personality is also shaped by the stories you tell yourself. If you constantly think of yourself as unworthy, unlovable, or broken, that story seeps into your posture, your speech, your very energy. But if you tell yourself that you are growing, that you are learning, that each day you are becoming a more whole version of yourself, that too becomes visible. Personality is, in many ways, the echo of the story you carry inside. And then there is humor. Not the forced humor that seeks laughs to hide insecurity, but the natural lightness that comes from not taking yourself too seriously. Life is heavy enough. When you can laugh at your own mistakes, when you can bring a smile to a tense moment, when your presence reminds others that joy is possible even in difficulty, your personality becomes unforgettable. Girls remember the way you made them feel, and laughter, when it is genuine, is one of the most enduring gifts you can offer. All of these qualities, confidence, curiosity, humility, kindness, discipline, humor, grow slowly, through practice and awareness. They cannot be faked, because over time, truth always reveals itself. A girl might be fooled by a mask for a moment, but eventually, the real person beneath always comes forward. That is why improving your personality is not a performance but a journey, a reshaping of your inner life until your outer life reflects it naturally. The deepest truth is this: you are not improving yourself for girls alone. You are improving yourself for the life you wish to live. And in doing so, you will naturally become someone who girls, and indeed all people, feel drawn toward. Attraction becomes a side effect, not the goal. The goal is to become whole, to become steady, to become alive in your own skin. This is where the real transformation begins. To truly improve your personality for girls, we must step into the heart of something often overlooked: emotional intelligence. It is not about grand displays of passion or dramatic gestures. It is about the quiet wisdom of knowing yourself, understanding others, and responding in ways that nurture rather than wound. Think of a man who is easily controlled by his emotions. Anger flares and he lashes out. Sadness comes and he collapses into despair. Jealousy rises and he becomes bitter and controlling. Such a man may appear strong for a moment, but beneath the surface he is fragile, easily broken by life's storms. Now think of another man, one who feels deeply, but does not let every wave drag him under. When anger comes, he breathes. When sadness comes, he acknowledges it without drowning. When jealousy appears, he does not let it poison his words. This man is not cold, he is not distant, he is simply anchored. And this anchor is what emotional intelligence truly is. Girls are drawn to men who can feel without being ruled by their feelings, because such men are safe. Safe to trust, safe to share vulnerabilities with, safe to lean on when the world grows heavy. Emotional intelligence does not mean being emotionless. It means having the maturity to hold emotions with care, your own and those of others. Presence is another quality that transforms a personality from ordinary to unforgettable. Presence is the rare gift of being fully here, fully alive in the moment with someone. When you sit across from a girl and she feels that your mind is not wandering, that you are not distracted by your phone, that you are not planning your next clever remark but are simply with her, she feels valued in a way that words cannot capture. True presence is magnetic, because it tells the other person that in this moment, nothing matters more than them. But presence is not just for conversation. It shows in the way you experience life itself. A man who notices the sky at dusk, who savors his food, who listens to music with his whole being, carries with him a richness that others can feel. Girls sense this immediately, because presence creates a rare atmosphere. It makes every encounter feel alive, as though something timeless is happening in the simplest of moments. This leads us to another hidden dimension of personality: energy. Not the physical energy of constant activity, but the subtle energy you radiate simply by being. Some men carry an anxious energy, always restless, always tense, always searching for approval. This energy repels without them even realizing it. Others carry a dark energy, heavy with bitterness or complaint, and that too pushes people away. But then there are men who carry a calm yet vibrant energy. They walk into a room and bring a sense of ease. They speak and others feel lighter. They laugh and the space warms. This is not magic, it is the result of inner work, of clearing away resentment, of choosing gratitude, of living with integrity until the soul itself becomes light. To cultivate this energy, you must learn stillness. To sit quietly, to breathe, to notice your thoughts without letting them control you. When you practice this kind of stillness, you train your inner world to remain calm even when the outer world is chaotic. That calmness becomes visible. Girls may not always describe it in words, but they feel it, and it is unforgettable. There is also the depth of values. Your personality is not only how you smile or how you speak, it is also what you stand for. A girl will eventually ask herself, consciously or unconsciously, what does this man believe in? What does he care about? Does he have principles that guide his life, or does he bend with every wind? When your actions show that you live by values, honesty, respect, compassion, courage, your personality takes on weight. It becomes more than charm, it becomes character. And character is the foundation of lasting attraction. Yet none of this matters if you lack self-acceptance. For a man who secretly despises himself cannot sustain any of these qualities. If you are constantly seeking validation, no amount of charm or wit can fill that emptiness. Improving your personality requires you to look at yourself with honesty, to see the parts you are proud of and the parts you are ashamed of, and to hold them both with compassion. When you begin to accept yourself as you are, without running from your flaws, you become whole. And wholeness is deeply attractive. Girls do not want perfection, they want realness. They want to sense that beneath your strengths and weaknesses lies a man who knows himself, who does not pretend, who does not perform, who simply is. That kind of authenticity is rare, and therefore precious. Finally, there is patience. The patience to grow slowly, to let your personality unfold like a tree rather than forcing it like a performance. Each day, small acts of awareness shape you. Each choice to listen instead of interrupt, each moment of discipline instead of impulse, each act of kindness instead of indifference. These choices gather quietly, until one day you realize you have become the kind of man who no longer tries to impress, because simply being yourself is enough. Improving your personality for girls, then, is not a shallow project. It is a journey of becoming deeply human, deeply grounded, and deeply alive. And in the presence of such a man, attraction is not something that needs to be chased. It arises naturally, like warmth in the sun. There comes a point on this journey where you begin to realize, improving your personality for girls is not really about girls alone. It is about discovering who you are at the deepest level, and allowing that discovery to shape every moment of your life. Attraction is not the destination, it is the side effect of living with meaning, with clarity, with wholeness. Philosophers through the centuries have wrestled with the question of what it means to be a complete human being. The Stoics spoke of virtue, of living in harmony with reason and nature, of acting with justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom. The Taoists spoke of flow, of moving with the rhythms of life instead of against them. Both traditions understood something profound, that personality is not just a collection of habits, it is the reflection of a man's inner order. Girls, whether they realize it or not, are drawn to men who live with a sense of inner order, not because they are flawless, but because they radiate peace in a world of noise. A man who knows his values, who has a purpose beyond himself, who is not swayed by every passing trend, creates a gravitational pull. His presence is steady, and its steadiness becomes deeply attractive. This sense of purpose is critical. Without purpose, a man drifts. He looks for validation in every smile, he clings to attention as proof of worth. But when a man has a purpose, when he is building something greater than himself, he carries an energy that cannot be faked. Girls sense it immediately, because purpose gives weight to your words, direction to your actions, and depth to your silence. It tells them that you are not lost in the shallows, that you are someone moving with intention through life. But purpose alone is not enough, it must be balanced with gentleness. A man who is only driven can become cold, harsh, or consumed by ambition. Yet when drive is balanced with gentleness, something remarkable appears, a strength that is not brittle, a power that does not crush, a presence that protects without controlling. This balance of strength and gentleness is perhaps one of the most magnetic aspects of personality. It whispers to a girl that here is a man who can carry weight without losing kindness. Philosophy also teaches us about the importance of self-mastery. For how can a man hope to attract others if he is still at war with himself? Self-mastery does not mean denying every desire, but it does mean choosing consciously instead of blindly. It means having control over your appetites, your temper, your impulses. A man who cannot master himself will eventually harm those around him, but a man who governs himself wisely creates harmony wherever he goes. And harmony is irresistible. This is where spirituality, in whatever form it takes for you, enters the picture. For to master oneself, one must look beyond the ego. Beyond the endless craving for attention, beyond the fragile pride that is wounded at every slight, beyond the restless hunger for approval. True personality is born when you realize you are more than the ego's fears and desires. When you anchor yourself in something larger, whether it be faith, nature, philosophy, or a deep sense of wonder at existence itself. From that place, your presence becomes expansive. Girls feel it even if they cannot explain it. It is the calm of someone who does not need constant validation to know who he is. There is also the role of gratitude. A grateful man radiates warmth without effort. Gratitude softens the sharp edges of personality. It teaches you to appreciate rather than complain, to notice beauty rather than overlook it, to honor the people in your life rather than take them for granted. A girl will always remember how she felt in your presence. And if she felt valued, if she felt seen, if she felt that her presence was not just tolerated but cherished, she will never forget you. Gratitude makes this possible, because it shifts your focus from what you lack to what you already have. Another layer of personality is the courage to be vulnerable. Many men believe they must hide their wounds, their fears, their failures, as if showing them would make them weak. But in truth, carefully shared vulnerability makes you human, and humanity is what creates connection. Girls do not fall for walls, they fall for bridges. Vulnerability is not about spilling everything, but about being real when it matters most, about saying, yes, I have been hurt, I have been lost, I have struggled, but here I stand, still growing, still learning, still alive. That honesty touches hearts in ways that no performance ever could. Yet even vulnerability must be balanced, for too much without strength becomes neediness, while too much strength without vulnerability becomes coldness. The art of personality is always in balance, balance between strength and softness, purpose and play, confidence and humility, seriousness and humor, ambition and stillness. When these balances begin to harmonize within you, your personality becomes a symphony rather than a single note. And so the journey deepens. Each day you polish your character not for appearances, but because you want to live fully, honestly, and meaningfully. And in doing so, you create a presence that draws others, not by force, but by the quiet magnetism of truth. This is the path toward becoming not just attractive, but unforgettable. And so we arrive at the final step of this journey. The point where all the threads begin to weave into a single fabric. When we first spoke of improving personality for girls, it may have seemed like a narrow path, a goal shaped only by attraction and desire. But now you can see, it is not only about being noticed, not only about winning attention. It is about becoming the kind of man whose presence enriches the lives of everyone he meets, including the women he hopes to connect with. Personality is not something you put on like a jacket. It is the sum of your inner world expressed outwardly. It is the story your eyes tell, the rhythm of your voice, the energy that lingers even when you are silent. Girls are not drawn to tricks, they are drawn to truth. And truth is revealed in the way you live, in the way you think, in the way you carry yourself day after day. Think for a moment about all the layers we have unfolded together: confidence rooted in self-trust, curiosity that makes your soul alive, humility that keeps you grounded, kindness that softens the world, discipline that steadies your emotions, humor that lightens the weight of life, presence that makes every encounter sacred, purpose that gives direction, vulnerability that builds bridges, gratitude that warms the heart, spirituality that transcends the ego. When these qualities come together, they do not make you perfect. They make you whole. And wholeness is what makes you unforgettable. Girls do not want a flawless man. They want a man who is real, alive, steady, and human. They want to feel that in your presence, they can be both strong and soft, both serious and playful, both seen and safe. When you cultivate these qualities within yourself, you do not need to chase, because connection flows naturally. But perhaps the most important truth is this: the work of improving your personality does not end. It is a lifelong journey, a continual polishing of the mirror of your soul. Each day offers new opportunities to grow, to listen more deeply, to act with more courage, to soften with more kindness, to carry yourself with more dignity. A personality is never finished, because a human being is never finished. We are always unfolding, always learning, always discovering deeper layers of who we can become. And here lies a paradox. The moment you stop obsessing over impressing girls, and start focusing on becoming the most complete version of yourself, you begin to attract without effort. Attraction is not something you chase, it is something you radiate. It comes from the way you make others feel when they are around you. And when your presence makes them feel understood, valued, inspired, and at peace, they will naturally want to stay near you. To live this way is to carry both strength and tenderness together. It is to be a man who can stand tall without arrogance, who can love without losing himself, who can walk with ambition without crushing joy, who can sit in silence without fear. This is the rare combination that leaves an impression deeper than looks, deeper than charm, deeper than momentary sparks. It is the kind of personality that lingers in memory, that creates loyalty, that inspires trust, that awakens love. The final reflection is this: improving your personality for girls is not about changing into someone else. It is about peeling away the noise, the insecurity, the performance, until what remains is the authentic man you were always meant to be. And when that man steps forward, when he lives with courage, compassion, balance, and meaning, he will find that the right connections, romantic or otherwise, will come naturally. So walk with patience. Grow each day. Be kind not because it impresses, but because it is right. Be confident not because you want to dominate, but because you trust yourself. Be present not to perform, but to honor the moment. In doing so, you will discover that personality is not something you build for others, it is something you build for yourself. And yet, by building it for yourself, you give a gift to everyone around you, including the women whose lives you may one day share. And that is the secret. To improve your personality for girls, you must first improve it for life. For in becoming whole, you become attractive not just in appearance, but in spirit. An attraction that is born of spirit does not fade, it deepens with time. So let this be the closing note. You do not need to perform, you do not need to wear a mask, you do not need to chase. You need only to grow, to polish, to live with meaning, to walk with balance, and to let your true self shine through. That is where real personality lives, and that is where true connection begins.